Our estimate is that about 200,000 people are displaced still. Even those who have been allowed to go back, most of them still live under tarpaulin sheets and tin roofs that have been provided for them in the last 2.5 years or so. That's been their dwelling place. Many others live in temporary camps and transit camps, just a little away from their homes. They can see their houses across the road. This happens to be mainly in the Jaffna Peninsula on the northeastern coast. The space between the road and the seashore is the area in which they have lived for generations, and some of those houses still stand, but they haven't been allowed to go there. They are located on the other side of the road, and in their homes, which they can see, there are others from the southern part of the country who have been brought and been settled and who do fishing, whilst the original inhabitants are unable to even get about their livelihood. They can't go to sea, they can't fish, they can't even go and live in their own houses. The condition back home is really terrible, and if I were to enumerate them this evening, this time is not enough. I will just mention one other factor. We have now consistently stated that the biggest problem that our people face is militarization, and that is said in such a bland tone. But if you think about it, the government's own estimate of the widows in the northern province alone is 89,000. And our guess is that about 40 to 50% of those are very young widows with children and no livelihood to maintain themselves. And then you have 100,000 strong army, young soldiers away from their homes and have made the northern province their home for the last 3-4 years. You can imagine the situation. We have put it down under the heading sexual violence in a report that I presented to Parliament on the 21st of October last year. But it takes different forms. It's not necessarily violent in the sense of the word that we usually associate it with. It's in various subtle forms. People have to live, and so they have made various arrangements. That is a kind of situation that we are living in, and in one conversation with very high government officials I raised this, and I was told, no, don't worry, the army commander is a very strict man. He has told the soldiers, well, if you fall in love with one of those women, you must marry them. Now what can you say against that? Now that is trotted out as the virtuous thing to do, and so that is just to give you a hint of what kind of violations our people are being continuously subjected to. Now all this has happened since the end of the war, and as you know, this is the problem with war. The winner takes it all. Once you lose a war, you've lost it all. Fortunately for us, we live in a more modern society than that, so that we are able to still maintain that never mind the armed resistance failed, the democratic rights of our people must still be honored, and that the government cannot on the strength of a military victory, crush people underfoot like this and trample upon them. That the world cannot continue to watch this kind of injustice being meted out to a people. To speak to certain countries who benefited from your stance like this on principles in years past, and even they have forgotten how much you helped them, and now taking a stand with the non-aligned countries against the West, as they call it. So the task is not easy, but with the kind of leadership and help that you are willing to offer, we are sure, if not in March, if not in June, if not in September, there will be another March and another September, and we will sustain this campaign. I told you about the ground situation in a very brief way. That is to show that we are not about seeking justice for events that were over 3 years ago. Not that that is not important, that is very important, if only to ensure that it does not recur in the future. But all the more urgent is the current situation, the current violations. As we speak, as we consider these matters, even now, the kind of terrible violations that are taking place, and if that is to be stopped, if that is to be checked, then very strong action is needed against the perpetrators. It is not out of a sense of vengeance, but out of a sense of justice and fair play, and for the sake of those who suffer as a result of these violations. And so it is urgent. It's not like Cambodia, where you could wait for 30 years and then institute an international investigation. If this is not done now, many more will flee our country. Many more will die. More deprivations will take place. And so if we are concerned about the present situation at all, then we must act fast, we must act with a resolution. I say that in more sense than one, to take place. We are targeting the month of March and putting the world on notice, as it were, to stand up for the rights of an oppressed people. But from a transitional justice point of view, we've also been engaged with the government of Sri Lanka to resolve the cause of the conflict. The original cause must be addressed, without which there cannot be any long-term reconciliation. The government of Sri Lanka is crowing to the world that they are in, as they themselves say it, they are in reconciliation mode. What they mean by that is to get some people, some senior military commanders of the LTTE to the government side, KP being the prime example. Of course, he was not a military leader, but there are others like that. Get the Sri Lankan military to shake hands with them, proudly announce to the world, well, we are all reconciled now. This has started happening. There was a, as they called it, a first National Conference on Reconciliation. I think it was in November last year. And there were 22 speakers, only 3 Tamils. Some reconciliation. Government thinks they can prescribe what reconciliation is. It's a prescriptive reconciliation. Saying this is reconciliation, do that and we are reconciled. The reason for that, my dear friends, is that in most other places where post-conflict there has been true reconciliation, there has been a regime change first. There has been a change in the political order first. And then, as they have stepped into a new order, they have looked back and wondered how to deal with all these evils of the past. And they have worked out various forms of reconciliation. But in Sri Lanka, it's the same government that led the onslaught during the war that is still in office. In point of fact, this is a matter that I want you to consider very carefully. In point of fact, each time there is some action taken internationally against the government of Sri Lanka, the government gets more popular back home. Each time